Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, you're watching Booked on Charity. In today's video I will be talking through all the books that I've read from January to March. So I've decided that I am gonna stop doing monthly wrap-ups because that's proving to be kind of like a lot of work for me, and I've skipped every month since this year started. So I've decided to do quarterly wrap-ups and we'll see how that goes. So between January and March I read a total of 16 books, which is not good because I should have read about 25 books by then to be on par with my goal, but it's okay, we will catch up. It's been kind of a slow start to the year for me, and yeah, you probably have seen it with the way that my uploading has been so inconsistent, but I am working on trying to get back to track, and let's hope that this is the month that everything kind of falls back together. So I'm gonna go in the order that I read the books from the beginning of the year up until the end of March, and give you a little bit of my thoughts on the book, if I can even remember at this point, as well as what I rated the book. I'm gonna try and keep this as short as possible so that we're not here for too long. So the first book I completed in 2023 was A Spy Family, but a volume 2. This is volume 1. I don't actually have a copy of volume 2. So in this book we follow this main character. He's a spy, and his spy name is called Twilight, and he's been put on a mission to basically infiltrate the life of this very top guy in government, and the only way to get close to him is to infiltrate this prestigious school where this governor's son goes to, but Twilight doesn't have a family. So essentially the first mission at this point is to get a family, and the first step, he gets this daughter called Anya from a home. She doesn't have parents, so he adopts her, but he doesn't know that she's a telepath, and obviously she doesn't know that he's a spy. She just thinks she's getting adopted. But as a telepath, and as he's going through a lot of his thoughts, because he thinks a lot, she keeps like tapping into his thoughts to hear what is going on. He's like, oh my gosh, daddy's a spy. And she finds this to be the coolest thing ever because she really loves spy movies. And then there's a point where he has to also like get a wife, and he ends up finding Yor, who happens to be an assassin. So we've got a spy, we've got a telepath, and we've got an assassin living in the same household, and everybody is keeping the secrets from everybody else except for Anya, because she's the telepath and she knows who everybody is, but she's not coming out right and saying it because she's afraid of being sent back to the home. But they go through this adventure of like trying to get close to this governor and this governor's son, and it is so flippin' hilarious. It is hilarious. It is one of the best things I've ever read. I love looking at the illustrations. They are so good. I love the way that the illustrator and the author, who's not the same person, captured emotions and like feelings in their eyes. Like, it's absolutely so good, to a point that my husband and I started watching the anime, and it's freaking hilarious. I definitely love Spy Family, and this is why it deserves a 5-star rating from me. The next book I read was Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan, and I give this one 4 stars. We're following a main character who, her mother is the moon goddess, and she's always grown up knowing her mom just takes care of the moon, and you know, at night blesses the people on earth and all that, but she doesn't know that the mother is actually a prisoner on this moon until one day she accidentally activates her powers, and nobody is supposed to know that she's alive. But the Empress people come to the moon to go try and find the source of this power, and the mother, the moon goddess, has to kind of like hide this main character and send her down to the celestial plane. Let's call it Earth. I don't know what they call it. But yeah, there's there's an adventure to the story. There's a love triangle that I actually enjoyed reading from, and there's kind of like a friendship that builds from that. I really enjoyed it. I liked the writing style, I liked the magic system, but it just didn't feel like it deserved anything above a 4-star rating. It was really enjoyable. It's a book that I would recommend to people starting out in fantasy. I think that it's really great for that. And then the next book I read was Wash Day Diaries, and this is by Jamila Rouser. This is a graphic novel. I gave this one 5 stars because it was so good. It was so good. Like, the illustrations were good. I love the color, the use of color. I love the story behind it because it is essentially a book about wash day. We've got these 4 friends and we're going through all of their wash days essentially, and to take you through like what happens during wash day, all the because it takes so long to just wash hair, 4C hair that is, and the things that happen in between. And it's a graphic novel, so it's very short, but in there we get to feel the sense of this connectedness between these women. We get a sense of how strong their friendship is and how all of them go through different things, but then there's always somebody in this group of friends that is there for you. And there's also conversations around mental health and depression, and I love how this author depicted that in this book and how they showed the support from the other friends. So I really enjoyed this. I think it was amazing. I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read is The Obsession by Jessie Cusitanto, and I gave it 4.25 stars. It's essentially similar to You, and we following this main character who has lost her father, and the mother has moved on to another guy who's actually very abusive to them, and then one day she kind of kills him and it gets caught on camera because she has a stalker. And now it's this game of I'm trying to play at I like you, but I really don't, because I really want to get this footage. And this guy is just like, yeah, you know, I can keep your secret safe, blah blah blah, and we're so great together. And it, like, the story unfolds in that way. But I really enjoyed this one. I think it was a great mystery thriller read. The next book I read is Turning Tables by Alice Takawira. I gave this book 4 stars. We follow the main character who, in the beginning of the book, she's on her way to get her love back from her ex, but then as she's on her way there, she meets another guy, Chris, on the plane. And when she arrives in London to meet with her ex, the ex kind of like rejects her, and she's kind of like thrown into Chris's arms because I guess he was already pursuing her. But there's a lot of things in here that made me feel a lot of things, because I did not like Chris as a character from the beginning. I saw red flags before even knowing what was going on, and they became very relevant to me in the story as the story progressed. But it's one of those books where there was nobody that I gravitated towards or nobody that I liked, but the story kept getting you like going. But there's also kind of like a thrillerish element to this, and there's a lot of things that happen. There's like a lot of things that happen, so you gonna like go through all this. And yeah, I did not find a character that I enjoyed because everybody was just in their own way. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. And then I read The It Girl by Ruth Ware that I gave 3 stars. It was very meh for me. I did not feel very invested in the mystery of it, in the story of it. At some point I got to a point, at some point I was just reading just to get to find out who, you know, the culprit is. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't great. And then I read The House in the Pines by Anna Reyes, which I gave 3.5 stars. It also wasn't great. This was a psychological thriller, and some of the things that happened didn't make a lot of sense. It's like there's hypnotism involved in this, and maybe I don't know enough about it, but I don't know, it wasn't very believable. It wasn't very believable, and I give it 3.5 stars because I thought it was just okay. And then I read Nerd Crush by Alicia Emmerich, and I gave this one 4 stars. I think this is a, obviously from the title, it's a romance, it's a young romance. I think it was very, very cute. I really liked the way that they played at the romance in this book. It was very cute, it was fun, it was sweet, it was endearing, and absolutely enjoyed it. And then my favorite book that I read this year was Wayward. I gave it a very deserving 5-star rating. It is following 3 women across 3 generations, and the point in which we discover them in these books, they are having a very negative relationship with men. Some are being abused, some are being called witches, you know, some are living in a decade or in an era where they don't have much rights as a woman, and we see them working through their courage to get out of those situations. And I love how the author wrote the book. Like, even though we kept skipping through different centuries, it didn't feel disconnected. It didn't feel disconnected at all, and I loved the connection all 3 women had across centuries. So it was really, really good. I really loved Wayward. Definitely would recommend. And then I read Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was my second time attempting to read this one. I managed to finish it. The concept, I think it was great, of like having to go to this cafe, to sit on this chair and get a chance to go back in time to meet somebody that you had a relationship with in the past but had to be in this cafe. And we go through multiple characters and see how they get to kind of like deal with their past. But I think it was good. There were some stories where I was just like, okay, and some stories which I think were great. And then I went on a binge reading of the Wayward Children series by Shauna Maguire. The first book is Every Heart of Doe, which I gave 4.5 stars. Book 2 is Down Among the Sticks and Bones. I gave this one 4.75 stars. And then I think this was my favorite one. And then I read Beneath the Sugar Sky, that I gave 4 stars. And then I read An Absent Dream, which I gave 4.75 stars. So essentially we're following these kids who are teenagers at this point, but they had doors open to them to other worlds. They were like between the ages of like probably 8 to 12 when these doors open up for them, and these doors happen to open for them when they needed it the most. These are kids that are misunderstood. These are kids that are having a hard time in their homes one way or another, and these doors open up to these worlds where they fit so perfectly in them, but something always happens and they get kicked out, and they ended up in this home for wayward children ran by this lady who actually also had one of her doors open and closed for her. But essentially we follow them, and they are trying to cope with being back into the society that doesn't understand them, and now they're even more different than the way that they left. And I didn't expect there to be kind of like a mystery in the first book, but I really did enjoy this series. I think that it was fun. I liked the social commentaries that the author pulled through in all of these books. In the first one, it was a lot about being misunderstood, and there's a queer trans character in here that was very misunderstood by their parents, and they went to this world, and this world took them because they thought that there was one way, and when they realized that there are actually another way, they got kicked out. So there's a lot of social commentary throughout this whole book. I think in the second book it dealt with a lot of parenting, and how the way that you parent your child and the kind of things that you force and enforce on your child can lead them to become a certain type of person. And I really enjoyed book 2 because of that, and seeing how the results of that has paved a path for these two main characters in book 2. Book 3 had fat representative, and there was conversations around that. But yeah, I really do enjoy the series. It's a really nice one to listen to. It's very fast. It's like averaging on 4 hours per book, so that has been a great series for me to read while on my commute to work. The next book I read was Harmony and Heartbreak. It is a series called Sweethearts, and this was the first book by Claire Khan. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's a middle grade. I listened to it on audiobook, and it's following these two characters who are cousins, and they come from a family who have magical abilities to bring people together. And there's a bit of competition there, but there's a lot of friendships, and there's first crushes, first heartbreaks. But I think it was so sweet, it was so beautiful, it was written so well, and I really enjoyed it. The final book that I read at the end of March, I absolutely enjoyed, and it's called How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. We're following a main character who is a influencer, and one day happens to kill a guy by mistake who was basically stalking her from a bar that they went to, and he felt entitled to her because he happened to buy her a drink. But this story is also kind of like bordering on a mix of You and My Sister the Serial Killer, because she ends up being a serial killer following these men who are abusive to women, who feel that they have a right to a woman's body. He basically is culling. She is like getting rid of all these men. But it's like she's one of those characters like Joe Goldberg that does bad things, but you still like them, and you don't want them to get caught, and you don't want them to like die. And I feel like this is a cozy mystery, and it's so funny. It is so funny to read. It is so good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the plot twists. I had an amazing time reading this book. I absolutely enjoyed it. If you enjoy cozy mysteries, if you enjoy You, if you enjoyed My Sister the Serial Killer, I think you would really enjoy this one. The writing was really nice. Like, in the audiobook with the physical is the best way to read this book. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4.7 star rating because I didn't think that it was perfect, but I think it was really good. But yeah, and that is all the books that I read in the first quarter of 2023. Let me know down below what you've read so far. Have you read any of the books that I've spoken about? And thank you so much for watching. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.